Welcome to the Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may have missed, with your hosts AJ Kuti and Jason Gordon. Welcome back, everybody. We are the Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses the things that schools may not have prepared you for. As always, I'm AJ. Sitting across from me, Jason. Jason, how you doing today?
Doing great, AJ.
Well, our semester just started. How's classes going for you?
Pretty well, I got to say. You know, I've taught all of them now for that first week, and I'm pretty excited about it. I've tried a new set of procedures and stuff as to how I'm teaching the material and stuff. So far, so good. You know, the students seem receptive as to how I'm going to, present the material and stuff. So, yeah, feels good.
I will say this is the first time in probably a year and a half that I've actually taught, whereas not just because previously, because of the pandemic and stuff, that I just created videos and then they watch the videos at home or whatnot, and then they come to class and we do problems and practice problems, examples and stuff like that in class. But they learn the learning aspect of the class, the videos at home. So I didn't have to teach it. And so this is the first time being in class. I was a little antsy to figure out what it was going to feel like, but it felt good to get back in there.
You know, that's kind of the same approach I'm following now. I'm doing more and more of that flip model where they're watching the videos and stuff. The actual this is what you need to know stuff is outside the classroom, where inside the classroom I can spend a little more time on how this works. So,
yeah, I will say in my class, especially my financial accounting class, I love, because it's a challenging class. Anybody who's taking that class knows it's a challenging class. I love being able to put practical examples in there, like stuff that I've been through, and it just makes it seem like it connects with them a little bit more. And so I generally love teaching that class. Now, managerial is a little bit different, and I can play around with that one. And that one's actually a little bit more of that flipped classroom model. But there's something about financial accounting. I just love to be in that class and teaching it, because I want to have more of that discussion style, not holistically lecture-based, but more of that discussion style.
Yeah, I know. I don't think students realize that we want that so much as professors. We want that interaction. We want that, just that group, we're figuring this out together type thing. And, if they did, I think they would quickly see that, one, it's more enjoyable like that for them and for us, right? So, but there's just some hesitation there of, I don't want to speak up. I don't want everybody putting their eyes on me and paying attention to me, that type of thing. So, I don't know what we can do to change that. I have no idea, but I try.
Maybe we can make an episode out of it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, we do have an etiquette thing in the classroom, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this one might need to be for professors, because I think the professor needs to be the one that facilitates it first, and students just need to be encouraged to participate.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of, I feed off of their energy, and when they have a higher energy, it makes me try harder in class. It makes me a little bit more verbal, a little bit more, I guess you would say almost louder. Mm-hmm. But I try to make the class a little bit more lively. Whereas if they're sitting there like a bump on a log, it's hard for me to get that energy up. And I rely on it.
I feel it the same way.
Well, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about something similar to what we talked about a few weeks ago, which was the spring break episode, but we're going to be talking about your summer break this time, which is obviously a longer break, and how you can use your summer break wiselier. Is that a word? Wiselier?
We're going to make it a word for this episode.
If you know what I mean, then it's probably a word. Yeah. So this one is going to go into our strategy series, because this one really does have strategy to it. There's something to this, to where you can choose different paths, and neither one of the paths or none of the paths are more right than the other ones. There's not one specific one that's better than the other one. It's just what you need for your point in life. So we're going to try to give you the help that you need when it comes to choosing what path to go down for your particular situation.
Agreed. Before we do, let me remind everybody, Reschool'd.com. That's Reschool with a D, not an ED. That's our website. Visit it, drop us a line, let us know what's going on with you. If you want to hear about a topic, tell us what that topic is, right? We want to talk about the things that matter to you. Also, social media handles, right? LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, check us out. YouTube, we have a series on there. Check us out there. Also, favorite podcast app. Got to get the notifications when we drop new episodes and things like that. So once again, look us up on all those channels.
And if you like what you hear, if you do us a great favor and just leave us those 5-star reviews, those help us out a ton. We'd really appreciate it. So let's get into the quick question of the day. What was the best thing you ever did during your spring or summer break? I'm going to say spring break a lot because it just kind of almost looks like that. But during your summer break,
Different animals, AJ.
I
Different
know.
animals. So for me personally, I had one amazing summer that changed my life like nothing else. So first year of college, it was a real shock. I was studying really hard. It was just a little, I mean, honestly, it was a whirlwind year, very overwhelming. But I figured out towards the end of the year at my college, we had a language requirement. Okay. Just meaning you had to take 4 semesters of a foreign language. And I really got into Spanish that second semester of my freshman year. I took a 6-hour or 6 credit hour class. So it's basically a double class with this really interesting guy, Cuban professor, exile, all that stuff. He became my mentor and a good friend afterwards. And it was just, it was incredible. And I realized then that I wanted to experience culture. I wanted to learn language. I wanted to do those things. So I'd been saving up my money a little bit from working, and I'd at the beginning of the summer, I went back and worked on the farm with my dad for a while, and he paid me some money too. So I saved up enough money, and part of that was, a little bit left over from graduation gift from high school and all that mess. But
sure, you
had
gotta
enough.
love graduation gifts.
Yeah, I got some graduation gifts, that I didn't really spend much of my freshman year. So I used it and I went to study abroad for the summer or 9 weeks of it in Costa Rica. So that,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
it was amazing, right? I lived with a family. I got to see all parts of the country, excursions. It was just amazing. And I had a pretty tragic thing happen there. I got in a bad car wreck with the
wow.
family. People were hurt really badly. In the other car, a couple of people were killed. It was not our fault, right? But
Yeah.
and I was hurt pretty badly. I tore up both my knees. It was
Good
rough.
grief.
But even in light of that, right, even in the event of all that happening, right, waking up in a Costa Rican hospital where I still didn't speak English, where they didn't speak much English and I didn't speak Spanish very well at the time. It was something, right? It was a scary, life altering experience, but I can without a doubt say that summer was one of the most impactful and meaningful experiences of my life. It changed me in a way that I can't even express it. I can hardly even talk about it, right? And do it justice to say what it meant to me, just as developing as a person and understanding things about myself and about the rest of the world and things like that. So anyway, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, I used my summer better than I have ever used a summer since. So with that being said, over to you, AJ. What was your best summer?
As I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm trying to figure out what is my answer to this question, because, it's been documented on this podcast a lot that my main focus when I was in college was not academics. It was more of that life experience. So I had a lot of experiences, but they were during the semesters. And in the summer, I pretty much did the same thing. I didn't change anything. And so I can't say that there was anything better that I ever did in the summer that I really didn't do anywhere else. I honestly can't think of, outside of going to the beach or going to, I don't know. I don't have that really cool summer break trip or experience that I can think of right now. And it's a tough one for me because, like I said, it's just nothing standing out in my mind.
Well,
and as I was listening to you, I was like, oh crap, I got to come up with something. And I still can't come up with it.
That's good, AJ. For the listeners out there, the majority of the group, thus far at least, will probably be in your same shoes. They cannot look at a summer and say like I did. So, assuredly that it was the most meaningful. So that's good. All right. We're going to see two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. I'm usually up on the more active end, and you're kind of on the more academic side. And this time it's flipped. This is really good. I like this. It's odd being on this side of the spectrum.
Well, I will say this. Now, most people would have gone to Costa Rica, and the people I went with, right, it was a study abroad group. They went out and partied, a lot and had a lot of fun and stuff like that. And I went on a few of those things. But the majority of my experience was just living with the family.
Yeah.
They took me anywhere I wanted to go. I went to volcanoes. I went to hike on mountains, parks. We went to beaches. We went to coffee plantations, banana plantations. Just seeing things. And I spent pretty much of that 9 weeks, I didn't spend 30 minutes of my time speaking in English.
Wow.
I mean, and believe me, when you can't speak Spanish very well and you make that firm commitment that, hey, this is what I'm going to do, it's tough. It was a stumbling block, but it made a difference. But so anyway, don't think of it as I went and had a spring break weekend in Costa Rica for 9 weeks. That is not how I used it.
You know, I've said this before, you know, except it was on either spring break or during the semester. But, you know, I went to France, and I'm like you, like it to a certain degree. When it comes to, like you said, the volcanoes, when it comes to the plantations, when it comes to the like banana plantations, stuff like that, I love those kind of things. Like we went to a crystalleria where they make crystal things like cups and different items. That was really cool to see. And it was really cool to see, like, OSHA is definitely not there. They don't have to worry about OSHA. But it was really cool to see them do this, like that practice, that skill that they have put in place. And it was really nice to see the outcome. We also went to a winery, which was, you know, really cool to see the process in which the wine was made. It was also really nice to drink the wine afterwards, to taste it. You know, when you taste the wine, you go to a wine tasting, you're supposed to spit the wine out.
Oh, they say that.
Why?
I've never used that spittoon.
When they told me that, I just kind of laughed. But yeah, I mean, I do like those things. I would have loved to see a volcano. That's a dream of mine. That would be so cool to me. Well, let's get into the main topic, dealing with summer break. And let's just go right off the top of the bat. Let's go through what are some options that we can think of that students can do during their summer break. So to me, the first one that comes to mind is you take summer classes. Maybe because that's fresh in my mind because I teach summer classes, but that is the one that just jumps out right away for me is you can take summer classes. What's some other ones?
Well, you can sit back and relax. You can do nothing, right? I mean, when I say do nothing, you can live your daily life, whatever that entails. So that's an option, right? I'd say that's one end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Another one, I would say you can go traveling. Yep. Right? You can make a event out of it. It doesn't have to be one of these educational, discover yourself, change your life type travels. It can just be, I just want to, visit some friends I haven't visited.
Yeah.
Right? I want to go here. Oh, I had never seen this state park. I'd like to ride and go see that. Right? I love state parks or national parks, either one, by the way. So, that type of thing.
You said something about, the personal side of growth. I think one option is the personal development activities. There are camps out there, or there's different activities you can go for at different time periods that you can grow in some area of your life. And I think that's one option too that some students take advantage of.
Oh, absolutely. You routinely teach at a camp like that, don't you?
Yep. Mine's for high schoolers, but there are other ones around the nation that deals specifically with college age. Mm-hmm. And it's geared specifically for leadership. So that's what ours is for.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to just be a camp, I would say. Lots of people, so I spend a lot of time in the entrepreneurship space, obviously, right? That's my area of law, I guess, if you can say that. But people will do things like coding camps, and they'll do things like, basically.
Coding camps are big right now.
Yeah. They'll do also the Young Leadership Development Network stuff, right? Lots of towns have that now. Type thing, and it can be a pretty prestigious group to be around or be a part of it anyway in certain areas type thing. So that's all of that falls into that whole personal development realm.
You said when you were talking about the relaxed side, you said you kind of do your normal day-to-day stuff. There's also, and your normal day-to-day stuff may be like a part-time job if that's just your normal thing when you go. So working could go into the relaxing because you're not taking another step. You're just kind of sustaining what you're doing right now. Mm-hmm. You can also take that next step, and I think you'd be appreciative of this one. I mean, you could also go to an internship.
Yeah.
You can all get an internship or go to a job that you're just going to work for the summer, but just to get that experience on top of obviously making some money.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about that one. We need to deep dive into that one because,
oh, yeah.
We've got a whole nother episode on internships and how they work and all that kind of stuff. But particularly for some majors, more than others, I would say, but across the board, the summer internship is built into the expectation for students or future employees. I mean, it can be a pathway to getting a job. It could be the connection. I mean, it just so much there. So for certain majors, I would say it's almost an imperative. You've got to do it, right? Your summer needs to be dedicated to doing an internship in whatever field you're going into.
Well, we've talked about 5 different options that students can choose from. Let's go through these 5 different options, and let's make it kind of quick. Let's go 1 pro and 1 con from each of us for these different options. So let's just start with taking a summer semester class or summer semester classes. What would be a pro that you would feel would be for a summer semester class?
Keep getting ahead academically, right? You get some of those hours out the way. You can either take more classes in total because of it, or you can lighten your load in future semesters, right? But just getting ahead academically is pretty nice thing to have under your belt.
Yeah, for me, depending on your time situation. So again, I'm not assuming that you're working full time as well as taking summer classes. I'm just assuming you're just taking summer classes, maybe at most working part time. So I know this is more of an ideal situation, but that's my assumption that when I make this pro. And that is, for some reason, when I took summer classes, I did better in those, mainly because I feel like I stayed up on them. Like, when I teach class, I teach Tuesday, Thursdays, and it's like half of a normal class, and then they have the entire weekend that they have to forget stuff, and it's kind of a lot slower. But when I was in the summer classes, it really just pushed me and pushed me and pushed me to stay up on it and stay current with it, so I was more prepared, I guess you would say, for the test.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 4-day, 5-day-a-week experience for more time each day.
Yep.
Oftentimes, I wish that some of our classes were like that in college rather than 5 classes for a full semester, or even if you're on the quarter system, right? Fewer classes for that longer period of time, that you could just focus on one class. Right?
Yeah,
maybe have something holistic that runs across at the same time. So you got that one class, and then you got your holistic class where you're doing things on that note or something. And then 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, 4 weeks later, whatever the time period to get through the class is, then you switch to a different class, but, type thing. It just, students tend to internalize the stuff so much better when you live it every day.
Yeah.
Right. So
I agree.
Yeah. And summer classes tend to have that, right? Summer classes are often broken down into Maymesters, which is 4 weeks, right? Or summer A, which is half the summer, which, 5.5 weeks, something like that.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
All right. Well, give us a con for taking summer classes.
It takes away from the other things you want to do. All these other things that we mentioned, from relaxing to traveling to doing all those things, usually you have to pay for them separately. So you have to get, if you're doing student loans, you have to get a separate, FAFSA approval. If you're paying out of pocket, that's going to be additional funds coming out of pocket, that type of thing. So, it's that, right?
Yeah, mine would be the classes in a summer semester, depending on, and I'm looking this from a full semester, so you can actually break this down for a half semester or a Maymester class too. But a full semester summer class comes at you twice the speed. I mean, you're literally twice the speed. So what you would normally be listening to in class is twice as fast, or twice as much. I wouldn't say twice as fast because they compensate for the time, which is normally, if the normal semester is an hour and 15 minutes, you're going to take a class that's probably 2.5 hours. But twice the amount of information in a single class, which means that you're going to have to study twice as fast at home. Your tests are going to come quicker. The amount of information that you're going to have to retain is going to be a lot quicker coming in. So you do have to be careful of that. And that's why I said, if you're working part-time, taking 3 summer classes is probably not the best idea. I mean, that's going to be a load and a half. So you really have to pay attention to what your time ability is when it comes to taking summer classes.
Agreed. And students normally, in my personal experience, tend to do worse academically during those times.
Yeah, I've seen that many times.
They're too overloaded, right? They can't get the work done, and grades suffer.
Yeah, I've actually had students say, "Well, can I take 6 classes in the summer?" And I'm like,
Right.
You can do whatever you want, but
can you versus should you?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Those are 2 separate questions.
Give us a pro for work or, taking the extra step and maybe getting a full-time job or that internship, not just like your normal stuff, but the next step.
So I got to give you 3. Right?
Oh, yeah. I'll defer my pro to you.
They're all career development stuff. I mean, 1, money, that's going to help, obviously. But 2, the networking, right? Meeting people in your field. 2, getting it on your resume, right? Having that experience as a background. People don't realize that first internship is a jumping off point for the next internship. And then, that those 2 internships together are jumping off points for getting into that job or career. And, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but lots of employers hire exclusively from their internship programs. So you hear about these people having a job waiting on them their entire senior year, or in crazy scenarios, our entire junior and senior year. That's how it happens. They get a internship with one of these Fortune 500 companies that has full-time internship program during the summer. All of a sudden, college is over. They've got a job, right? And that job was waiting on them the entire time. So, and, students ask me all the time, like, how do they get these jobs, right? They're never posted anywhere. There's nowhere to apply. They don't apply. They applied for an internship a year or 2 ago. They got it. And now just out of the blue, they get an offer that says, if you want to join us as a full-time employee when you graduate, the door is open. So that is crazy to most people. But anyway, that being said, networking, experience, that signaling function on the resume, right? And then, of course, it can open a door directly to an employment opportunity.
I will also say, and I don't know if this would be probably the majority of cases. This is probably a smaller subset of cases, but when it happens, I think the impact is greater than really anything else. And that is when you go through these jobs, these internships, not only is it a trial for you to work at this business, but it's also a trial to see it for you if you even like this kind of work. And it allows you to say, you know what, this is not really what I thought it was. It's not what I really wanted. So I think I'm going to back out and go do a different major or get a different degree. And like I said, it hopefully doesn't happen like that, because hopefully you know what you want to do. But if you don't, that's some way that potentially could save you a lot of heartache and potentially save you money in the long run.
Absolutely.
What about a con for work or internship?
Again, it occupies your time. If you need to relax, if you need to diffuse from a very difficult, tense semester, you need that time away from the academic environment so you can come back after the summer refreshed and ready to get at it again, right? Particularly if you have a very demanding program, like, your sciences tend to be that way, highly demanding, highly technical, and they take a lot out of you. You might need that rest. You might need that relaxation. You might need to clear your mind by going on vacation, right? And you might not get to do that. So,
yeah, that would have been mine, because you got to think when you're talking about classes, even with our classes, I teach on a normal semester. I teach Tuesday, Thursday, and it's an hour and 15-minute class. When I teach a summer semester, I teach Tuesday, Thursday, but it's a 2.5-hour class. But it's still Tuesday, Thursday, which means if they're only taking one class, then they still have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to do what they need to. They still have that free time. Whereas if you're in an internship, I would venture to say most internships are probably going to be in the summer all week. You don't have that ability. You don't have that free time as much as you do, which, I mean, granted, you know that going into it. You would know that going into it beforehand, but you don't have that autonomy to say, okay, I'm only going to take classes Tuesday or Thursday or Monday and Wednesday because you have this going on. You have this job that has the requirements. Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's look at pros and cons of just relaxing. I think it's in the name,
pros,
relaxing.
Right? You get to reset.
Yeah.
I mean, there is value to going at something hard, and then there's value to taking a break, recollecting yourself, and starting over. We know that. Mental sanity is just as important as finishing your academic requirements and things like that on time. And it's, you think about yourself first. So if that's something you need, that's a huge pro.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback just a hair on that, and I'm going to say that your ability to take a summer break of relaxation is probably going to help you in the long run to curb off burnout. Burnout's a big thing in college that we've taught. We have a podcast we have an episode that's about motivation, and burnout's a real thing. And being able to, like you said, reset, that kind of wards off some of that feeling of being burnt out and not knowing what to do, or not knowing if you want to continue doing it. So I think that's a huge pro, just like you said. What about a con?
You're not moving yourself forward. It's an idle time, right? You're not making connections. You're not getting ahead academically. You're not making money if that's not part of your relaxation, right? Sometimes you're spending money. Okay. So taking these breaks for some people who need that constant interaction can be a demotivating factor. Honestly, you just start spending all your time dreading having to go back type scenario. So be careful with that, right? It's, at least I'm one of those people that you give me too much of a break in doing something, I never go back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wait till whole series of shows are dropped on Netflix or wherever.
Oh, yeah.
Before I start watching it, because if I watch it week to week, I won't go back, right? And sometimes I don't go back between seasons. I watch one season of something and that's it. Even no matter how much I enjoyed it, I just can't, I lose motivation towards it.
You said you're not moving forward, and I would also argue that the best time to do this is when you feel like you're moving backwards. So if you're not moving backwards and you're staying where you are, that's still better than not moving backwards, if that makes sense. Like, some of these things you're moving forwards because you don't have to worry about moving backwards. But with relaxing, I almost feel like you're doing it for the purpose of just not moving backwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And so that's kind of to your point. Con, I can't add to a con to that other than the fact that, odds are you're not making a ton of money. You're not making a lot of money as if you were to get like an extra work experience or an internship or whatnot, because this is just, again, your normal day-to-day stuff. You're not doing anything different. You're just relaxing. Pros on travel. What about traveling?
Once again, personal development. And there's learning from a textbook, there's learning from practicing in class, there's learning from work, but there's learning that happens when you just experience things that you haven't, seeing places you haven't been, meeting people that have different cultural aspects or different tendencies than you, speak different languages, things like that. So travel, to me, is one of the most integral aspects of fully developing as a person. Okay. And when I say personal development, we have a whole episode on the benefits of studying abroad, right? All of that we say there translates just as well into the travel that you do.
And when we say travel in this one, we're not necessarily meaning only travel abroad. We're talking about you can just take a trip.
Yeah.
It's just any travel. But any travel that you do, whether it be study abroad, a family trip, or you just going to, like you said, a state park or a national park, you're going to get something out of it. You're going to get something. It's just inherently you're going to get something out of it. Hopefully, or otherwise, why would you take that trip? My pro, I think my pro has a little bit of almost everything. You have a little bit of learning. You have a little bit of relaxation. You have a little bit of personal development. The only thing you don't have is you're probably not making money from it. I mean, that's the only downside to travel, is you're not making any money from it, as opposed to all the other ones. So all the other ones, you have a big focus on one aspect. I think traveling, you're getting a little bit of those focuses on all the other ones.
Yeah,
because it is so. I think traveling is so necessary. Well, what about a con for travel? I think there's a clear, obvious one.
Well, everything's a trade-off, right? Everything else that we talked about, you don't get to make money. In fact, you might be spending money, right?
That was the obvious one for me.
Okay, travel can be exhausting. It is not oftentimes relaxing. Especially if you're going with family or a bunch of people type scenario. It could be a lot of packing, organizing, planning. They're tight quarters for a long time leads to disputes and arguments. I mean, there's just all sorts of things. So once again, it's just a trade-off between these various things.
Yep. My con was just it's going to cost money. You're not making money, and it's going to cost you money. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a double whammy there. And the last one was the personal development activity. So like camps, like coding camps, stuff like that. So what would be a pro for that one?
Skills. It shines on the resume. It allows you to prove your ability, right? You can always develop certain skills later, but sometimes that's a qualifier. So career-wise, amazing, right? depending on the type of camp you go to, if it's not a skill-based thing, personal development, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, the type of camp that you teach in is a personal development type of camp, right? So all of these things can, once again, benefit you in the other areas we talked about.
Yeah, mine, it's the same. Growth. Growth would be the biggest pro when it comes to personal development activities. Growth in a specific area, obviously what you're choosing to go in that camp, but it's going to teach you something it's going to teach you something better than maybe you already have known or you didn't know at all. And that growth is going to take you further than not having it. So what about a con?
Con, let me think. Well, sometimes they're expensive.
Yep, that was where my mind went again.
Okay. So not to steal that one from you, but
no, that's fine.
So another thing is you may not be able to do the other things. Like, once again, these camps sometimes are demanding. They can be work, right? So you're not relaxing. Other times you're foregoing making money by going to these, right? You could otherwise be doing your job and stuff. And if using the summer to secure the resources to continue your education, to do the things you want to do during the school year, well, that's a huge sacrifice to go to this personal development stuff in lieu of making that money that you're going to need, right, during the academic year.
Sure. Again, the con for professional development would be very similar to the travel. Not only is it going to cost you, but it's going to cost you in stuff that you can't make either. So it's kind of going to hit you, twice as hard. All right. So this being our strategy series, let's end on this. What or how would you suggest students go about choosing what they're going to do for their summer break? What strategies would you suggest?
Well, strategy necessarily entails some level of planning, right? So I would say look at your whole year. Look at what you're going to take first academic semester or are taking, or taking second academic semester, or, and then say, all right, how am I going to use this summer? Why is the summer there to start with? Am I the type of person that needs to go year round? So should I take 12 hours, and then 2 classes during the summer? So I average 15 hours. Do I need that to secure resources for the academic year so I spend more time working? Do I know I need an internship or to go down that road because I'm trying to get into an industry where I cannot get into that industry if I don't go ahead and do this, right? Ask yourself all these questions and then start planning your whole year. It's not just about planning the summer. It's about planning the whole year and including that summer. Too many students sit back, plan semesters 1 and 2, and they don't plan the summer. And that's a mistake.
Yeah, that's a huge mistake. My advice for the strategy in which you go about picking what to do during your summer break or breaks is really, it's a 2-step process. One is you want to go through and first decide what you need. What is necessary for you to sustain? If it's money, then you can count out some of these. If you need to have money or you need to make money during the summer, then you can go ahead and check off some of these. It's not possible. Travel's probably not going to be there. Personal development's probably not going to be there, depending on how long that is. Classes you can work around. Work obviously is there. Relaxation, like I said, you may have a part-time job. It may not be. That may be sustainable for you. So those are 3 options that you could have if money is a necessity. And then once you have that, once you filtered it down to that, then you can go into what do you want? Do I want to do something that's going to allow me to get through with class or college quicker? Well, then I'm going to take summer classes. If I want to make more money than I normally would, or increase my chance of getting a better job after graduation, then I'm probably going to get an internship or go work, at a stronger place than I am working now at the next level. And then if I can just sustain with the money I'm making right now, but I just need time to reset, then I'd probably go with the relax. On the other hand, if I need something I don't necessarily have to have the money right now. Like I've planned pretty well. I've saved up enough, and summer's not the biggest thing for me to make money on. Then I can almost take a step back and say, okay, now that I know I don't have to have money, then I don't really have to focus on the work side of it. I can focus something else. Where do I want after I've completed that need? Once I've nailed down that need, what do I want? So again, I can go back to saying, okay, do I want to travel? Do I want professional or personal development? Or do I just want to relax? So I think it's a two-step process. It is first figuring out what you need, and then once you have filtered that out, then it goes into figuring out what you want with the choices left over.
That makes sense. I like that approach. Very logical.
So you have any other things that we need to talk about before we head out?
Well, one thing I'll say is don't get caught up in that expectation cycle, right? The summer is there historically for weird reasons, right? Planting season and whatnot. Okay, like, in the old school. And then college just went on to match what was going on in high school, middle school, elementary school type scenario. So your life is your life, right? You, to a certain extent, have to live your life based upon the schedule of the things you're doing, right? Working 9 to 5, whatever, going to college on semesters, on quarters, whatever. But to a certain extent, you map out your life the way you want to achieve the things you want out of life and to move down the path at the pace and, with what diligence you desire. You know that the summer's there. You know that the academic semesters or quarters are there. Plan your life appropriately. If you want to go for a semester and take a semester off and work and then come back for a summer and then take another semester or whatever, plan that accordingly, right? But just being aware of your options and how it's set up is important. You do have to play a game in the system. But once again, it's still your life. You can still go in the direction you want to by planning appropriately. And for that reason, this topic is in our strategy section.
I will say, from another strategic standpoint, if you're somebody who is worried about having to drop a class because you're worried about your grade or even failing a class, if you were to take a summer class, let's say you're trying to graduate on that 4-year plan, so you're taking 15 hours per semester, spring and fall. If you take one class or 2 classes in the summer, that will, in effect, cover up any class that you may have failed or that you will drop when it comes to the timing. So if I drop one in the spring semester, but I've already taken one in the summer, I don't have to worry about, I'm going to have to cram one semester. I actually compensate for that by using my summer class, even if it's just 1 or 2. So from another strategic standpoint, that could help you in terms of not necessarily graduating early. I mean, it could, but really not having to take an extra semester for 1 or 2 classes because you've had to drop or you failed one. So,
yeah, good point. Great point.
Well, that's been a good show. I've enjoyed this one. Obviously, summer break is not as glorified as spring break, but it's a good time period. So I think this has been a great episode for the listeners to understand kind of what the options are and the strategy to go about choosing that. But Jason, you have anything to say before we head out?
Just to remind everybody, go to our website, drop us a line, let us know what you're thinking. Tell us about successes in your life. We'll celebrate them with you. But as much as anything, tell us what you want to hear about, because that's why we're here, to talk about the things that matter to you.
Awesome. Well, until next time, we hope to see you then. Goodbye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Reschool'd podcast. Be sure to head over to reschool'd.com for news and other information on things we're getting into.